about all his anti-worker history his whole lifetime, but he had a chance to do that, and he didn't. He had a chance to do infrastructure. He didn't. He had a chance to improve funding for education. He didn't. And on and on and on. And while we've been successful in a lot of instances, I'm talking about labor and Democrats in general, it's stopping some bad things from happening. We need to actually get things done like Biden did with that pension deal, right? And the only way we're going to do it, is if we get the right people elected. Now, if you are like me and you look at 538 30 times a day, it can get depressing. It's too close. And maybe even we're still coming from behind. And then there's good news, like a lot of you saw the poll out of Iowa or the hold on, don't get excited yet. Or the New York Times, Siena College released this morning. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because polls don't vote, people do. Right? And there are still undecideds out there. According to some of those polls, it's 8-10% or so. I can't understand why, but the good thing is there is. And Kamala's getting most of that. But it's not enough to just vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, right? Because they can't sign something if they don't have people like Bob Casey to tee up and send the legislation to them. That's how we got the pension bill done, and that's how we get other things done, whether it's ACA or anything else. So we have limited hours left. We got to leave here today and do something about that, right? This is going to come down to probably less than one vote per voting precinct in Pennsylvania. This race will probably be decided by that much. So if you leave here today and you go out and one door you knocked on is an undecided, or maybe they were going to stop and vote on Tuesday, maybe they weren't, and you get them to vote and get them to vote the right way, you can make that difference. If every one of us were just to get one extra person, but to get it, you're going to have to knock on 50 or more doors, right? And then we can get shit done, all right? I've overused my time allowance, so I'm going to stop now. I'm not used to doing that, but I was told I'd be wrangled out of here if I kept going. So you're going to hear me say this over and over again because it's true. I am really excited about the folks that are here today to talk with us. I honestly never thought I'd see all these people in one room together, especially our meeting hall right here that we share with some other unions, the Teamsters, teachers, nurses. It's just to have these folks take the time out to come here. And the first, and our leader in the AFL-CIO, someone who I was lucky to meet long ago. She's been a union organizer, grew up in a union household. She was with the electrical worker union originally, so she clearly was one of those people that broke a ceiling a long time ago, right? Not your typical white guy. She was the youngest elected to Secretary-Treasurer of the AFL-CIO and the first woman president of the AFL-CIO, our national union, Liz Schuller.
Thank you. Wow, good morning, Philadelphia. Thank you to Wendell, who is a legend in this town. I just want to say thank you for your leadership. Yeah. And I'm just so proud to be here this morning because look at this beautiful crowd. Look at this solidarity. And I look at these leaders over here, and we've been traveling together. I'm kind of are starting to stink, and we've been spending way too much time together. Maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I just want to say thank you. The reason I wanted to be here, and I think the rest of them wanted to be here, is because we know the stakes, and right here in Pennsylvania is where it's happening. You probably saw there's a statistic around how many seconds it takes to knock on a door in Pennsylvania. I think it's one door every 10 seconds now because people are so focused on Pennsylvania. But the labor movement is who is going to be delivering this election. We are 1 in 5 voters in this Commonwealth. And so I'm just happy to be here. Thank you so much again, Wendell. Mark Perrone, who, of course, with the UFCW, I'm part of the club now. And, of course, Angela Ferrito and Maurice Cobb, who lead the state AFL-CIO here in Pennsylvania, who I think you're going to hear from. But I feel like this is our time. Are we ready to win? Are we ready to elect the first woman president of the United States? And send Bob Casey back to the Senate? And win those races up and down the ballot? That's what I thought. So I got a stat yesterday, I think it was 90,000 doors just in the first 4 hours of yesterday. Just the labor movement. And when we go out and have these conversations, as Wendell said, it matters. It matters. People trust their union. They trust their union more than their friends. They trust their union more than their family. And I always say, I don't know what it is with their family, but they trust us more. They trust you more. And we know we want to go forward. We want to continue building on the success of this Biden administration with Vice President Harris as president and our union brother, Tim Walz. The last thing I'll say, Elon Musk. I keep hearing about Elon Musk. These billionaires, they think they can buy this election? That's right. They do not have the trust. They do not have the credibility. They can knock on all the doors they want to, but they cannot break through like you do. And we know Donald Trump the last 8 years. I'm telling you, we do not want to see that nightmare again, do we? He's the guy who's given out those tax cuts to people like Elon Musk. No wonder Elon Musk is so fired up, right? But we know that we want someone who's going to walk the picket line with us instead of cross it, and that is Kamala Harris. We want someone who's going to lift people up instead of calling them islands of garbage, right? We want someone who's actually going to protect women, not say they're going to protect us and then take away our freedoms. So we know what we need to do. So let me ask y'all, are you ready to get out every last vote? Are you ready to win? Thank you for all you're doing and all you will do these next 48 hours. We are going to make the difference. Thank you, Labor.
Hey, I want to point out a couple of people before I introduce the next speaker. You know, this hall has often been the gathering point on election night for not just unions, but Democratic Party in this area. And a number of years ago, when things looked too tight in the polls, weren't sure how it was going to go, a few of those times we came out ahead at a time when the county was very, very red Republican. And one of those people that helped do that and actually won one of those elections here right now, former Congressman Joe Hoffel. Right there. All right. Joe is a great example. All across the country, they talk about the collar counties of Philadelphia. It started here, and it started with people like Joe and Marjorie Margolis-Vizinski. Thank you. John Meyerson, retired UFCW. You remember it, political director, remembers the exact number, right? 84 votes, he said. So, a couple other people real quick. Everybody who's here from out-of-state UFCW, please raise your hands. These are some of the folks been knocking doors all around. There's others like them in other parts of PA. In there's our collective bargaining director, Brian Wynn, and Kate Meckler, I saw back there, our regional director. Next, I want to introduce someone who, you know, and I've been trying not to say this. I'm going to try not to say too much, but when I say my whole life, it reminds me of how long I've been doing this. But going back to the earliest days of organizing in the UFCW, is literally as a teenager working in a supermarket here in Pennsylvania, someone I met back then, someone who, you know, I learned back then was probably one of our best organizers anywhere. And, you know, he was doing work in a nearby region and also out of the international. And someone who over the years, you know, like many, moved up through a lot of positions, has always been a good friend to not only this local, here, our local, but really been a great leader throughout his whole career, and couldn't have been prouder when he became our international president, and has really served us well, especially in these tough elections in recent years. And I'm sorry the political director couldn't be here, but we're all spread out these days, as you know, at Amola. But my international president, Mark Perrone.
Thank you, Wendell. Can y'all hear me? Okay, so Wendell said that I've been around for a while. I've been a member for 51 years. At no point in time in my career or as a member of this union have we ever been in a situation like we're in today. I have never seen a candidate, Republican or Democrat, basically say it's a great thing if you fire workers if they're on strike. I've never seen a candidate talk about taking away overtime for people. Now, I don't know why any person in labor would even consider to vote for this guy. I have no idea. But here's what I do know. Labor is the tip of the spear of this particular campaign. We're the ones that are going to make a difference. We're the ones that can change the outcome of this election, but more importantly, the outcome of our country. Now, Harris has said it over and over and over again. This election is about our democracy and about our freedom and our future. There is no question about that. If you look at Project 2025, if you actually read the 960 some odd pages of things that they want to do to us, we've got issues that we've got to deal with. But we can't let that happen. And we have to win this election by a large enough margin that those son of a bitches don't try to take it away from us. And that's where we're at right now. We have to take this election in a way that there is no doubt. So I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here this weekend, the last weekend of the election, to push this thing over the top for Kamala and for Walz. Because if it wasn't for all the people in this room, who knows what the outcome of this election would be. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And Wendell, I'm going to give it back to you.
All right.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. So next, I just want to point out a few people while we're here. We got some other union leaders here, starting with Angela Ferrito. I know she had to leave. Is she still here? Maurice Cobb. I don't know if Maurice is still here, but I know they were on tight schedules, other events in the area. Tom Tosti, ASME, Council 88, right out back. Art Steinberg, AFT. I see Art over here. Aaron Chapin, I think I saw over here, PSEA. Yep. Mike Sukol, ASME, State Council President. Mike's here. And I apologize if I missed somebody, but raise your hand at some point. We'll make sure we don't forget to mention. And where are all those UFCW members? Being awful quiet back there. All right? You know the way it is. Family hold back, so they're in the back, right? So next, I got to introduce, and I hope he isn't offended by this, but I think of him as the Energizer Bunny. When I first met this guy, I was really impressed because everywhere I went, he was there or already there running for office. He even found out where my mom lived and made a point to call me from her condominium to say, I just knocked on her door and got her vote, right? And then when she moved, he tracked her down at the next place, right? But it's why he got elected. A seat that had long been held by Republicans, he took by a very large margin. But it's also why his first office he held, and it may not have been the first I'm aware of, was as a district justice here in Pennsylvania at the age of 28 years old, right? When he ran for state rep, I think, what was it, about 70-some% you won by in the district, right? Yep, they won. All right, let's make it 82%. Okay. Anyway, House Rep from this district right here where we are based in this House, House Representative Greg Scott. Greg?
When I say union, you say power. Union. Union. When I say union, you say power. Union. Union. All right, we got to do that one more time. He's got to hear us all the way to fucking Mar-a-Lago. Union. Union. That's what I'm talking about. And let me tell you one thing. The union movement has taught me I don't do nothing by myself. And when I go to Harrisburg, not only do I represent Wendell and the communities of Norristown, Conshohocken, and Plymouth Township, I got ASME. Any ASME brothers and sisters in the building? I hear any 1776 members in the building? Let me tell you, when I Harrisburg, I represent all of you, but I don't do it by myself. We got a strong, humble 102 in the Pennsylvania House Democratic Caucus by our majority leader, Matt Bradford, who's here. Matt, come on up here. We got Liz Hambidge here. We got Melissa Serrato. We got Nancy Gintz, Napoleon Nelson, Joe Webster. We got Amanda Capoletti. When we go to Harrisburg, we remember this, right? For us, this isn't about words. This is about actions. Let me tell you what we did with 102 members in Harrisburg this session. Y'all know something about minimum wage? Well, we passed it in Harrisburg with the House Democratic Caucus. Minimum wage was passed. Now listen. Chris Naylor, he came to my office and said, we got to talk about this meatpacking bill. Well, it was Matt Bradford's leadership in the House Democratic Caucus. We passed that meat workers protection bill. It was the House Democrats that did that. Give it up for them. It was this team right here, Randy, this team right here that said no to vouchers, right? But yes to student teacher stipends. It was this team that did that. So, we got 3 days to go, folks. My faith tells me don't grow weary in well-doing. This is not the time to give up. We got people fighting with us all along the way. I see our Sheriff, Sean Kilkenny, in the audience. Sheriff's been a friend of labor from the very beginning. Let's give it up for Sean. Sean's had our backs in the courtrooms, on the courthouse steps, and also delivering for workers. We see our county commissioner, Neil McKeej, is also in the building. We want to give it up for him as well. Lori Schreiber's in the building, our clerk of courts. We got 3 days to go. Don't grow weary in well-doing. This Tuesday, we got Kamala Harris on our T-shirts. We got Senator Bob Casey, who we've got to send back to make sure she has those reinforcements. But I need you to make sure that you vote for Democrats up and down the ballot. And let me tell you one thing. We got state reps on the ballot, and here in Montco, make sure you flip that ballot over, because if you don't flip that ballot over, you won't vote for us. But I need you to vote for your self-interest this Tuesday. We got a lot on the line. But if you vote for this House Democratic Caucus, I assure you, with the leadership of Matt Bradford and all of my colleagues behind me, that we're going to continue to deliver a government that works for working class people for real. My colleagues and I, we all believe that we should get paid and when you do hard work, you should be able to retire with dignity in a house that you can afford, and be able to make sure that your families and your kids, your grandkids, be able to live in an America that our grandparents and our ancestors helped build. So this Tuesday, vote for your self-interest. Vote for Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz to be our next president. Give them support in Washington and U.S. Senator Bob Casey. But don't forget all your state reps all up and down the ballot. Give them one more round of applause as we bring up Wendell Young.
I told you it was an Energizer battery, right? Now look at this, and there's many others that couldn't be here, because there are other events like this all around the area here. This didn't exist. This didn't exist when our union moved here in the 80s. It was all Republican except a few. I see Sean shaking his head and others. It was the labor movement that drove that change. And this is how, instead of just trying to block things, by electing folks like this here at the national level, we get shit done, right? All right. Thank you. I lost my place. All right. So the next person I'd like to introduce, someone who I've been a real fan of for a long time. Again, that sing, long time. And because our unions have worked so close together, and you know, even before I was old enough to work here or vote, I had known about this because of the union household I grew up in, about the tight relationship between AFSCME and back then retail clerks, now UFCW, because of the fight to bring the right to representation and collective bargaining to Pennsylvania's public sector workers. And you think of names like Jerry McEntee and Ed Keller and others, right? Well, you know, right there, working all along for a lot of years, someone who, again, had a great deal of respect for, the former political legislative director, the first African-American president of AFSCME, and you know, grew up in a union household as well, President Lee Sanders. Now, but before I give him the microphone, I just want to say, he's here all the time. I turn on the TVs everywhere else. I go to my national convention last year. He's there too. Mark, I think it's time you get an honorary membership in the UFCW, all right?
All right. How's everybody? My voice is getting a little hoarse. Let's do this. Let's give Wendell a round of applause for what he does and what the great UFCW does every single day. Now, we were in the back talking, and you reminded me of something. For the past 2 years, I've come to this hall to promote pro-worker candidates. Wendell has hosted us for the past 2 years. First year, we elected a governor, pro-worker governor, with everybody's help in this room. Last year, I came here and we elected the Supreme Court justices who were friends of labor. We did that together. We did that together. Now, so I want to make this real clear to all of you. You ain't breaking my string. We're kicking ass on Tuesday, and we're going to win the presidency. We're going to win the vice presidency. We're going to send Bob Casey back to the Senate. We're going to continue the leadership of Chuck Schumer as the leader of the Senate, and we're going to flip the House, and what? And what? Hakeem Jeffries will be the first African-American head of the House. That's what we're going to do. I feel it. I feel it. I'm telling you. There is an energy, and I've been here for the past 3 days, traveling all over this area. And you can feel the energy that's there. The excitement. People knocking on doors and coming back saying, well, we had some rough discussions, but overall, people are understanding it. 3 more days or 2 more days, whatever the hell it is. Okay? Then it might be a little time before they can count all the ballots. But let me tell you this. That feeling that I get in Pennsylvania, I've been talking to our folks all over the country the past 3 days, and they're feeling it as well. And I don't believe in polls. But when I pick up paper and listen to the news and they say that something's going on across this country where people are starting to understand the importance of this election and they are not going to vote again for a jackass for president. They won't do it. They're sick and tired of it. They're sick and tired of it. And we've got to be sick and tired of it too. Labor, I am telling you, we put our feet on the ground, knock on those doors, we will win. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get the job done. Thank you very much.
And now you know why he's losing his voice, right? Listen, on behalf of the UFCW, I think we have a great team, really works hard all across Pennsylvania here as our local covers the state. But our team, I couldn't do it without a great partner in the cockpit, and that's Michelle Kessler, our Secretary Treasurer right here. Come on, Michelle, raise your hand, right? Thank you, Michelle. So next, someone else who I really admire, someone I wish I really did know a lot better a long time ago. I know I could have learned a lot from her, but clearly she's made a huge mark. She grew up in Philadelphia, went to Girls High, public school. She eventually worked up through her union, and at one point I think led one of the largest locals in the country. But she went on to, I believe, was appointed by President Obama to an advisory commission on the education, excellence in education for African Americans, and really carved out a reputation for herself. And that's Becky Pringle from the NEA. How are you? I got that right. Yeah, Becky.
I might need it.
You want that? I was told she wouldn't need it. Here we go. Lee said don't give it to her.
Oh, I really don't. Hey! You're looking mighty fine this morning. Mighty fine. Look over at that sign. Unions for Harris and Walsh. And look at all of our logos over there. Doesn't that make you smile? Doesn't that make you smile? Yeah. Yeah, because Lee, you are right. Together, we're going to what? Win. We are going to win. We are going to win. Now, Lee reminded us of being in this very hall for the last couple of elections. And so I want to thank UFCW. Wendell, thank you so much for opening up your doors again, because I think it's a sign now. Don't you think it's a sign? Yeah. We're gonna win again. Now, as I look out at this crowd, I don't need to tell you anything you don't already know. So I think it is Sunday morning, right? Yeah. So I think I need to take a text. That's what I'm doing. I'm gonna take a text. I don't feel no ways tired. I don't feel no ways tired. That's what you need to remember every minute, every second of the next 48 hours and a little bit of change. I don't feel no ways tired. We are union strong. That's what we are. And I'm pretty sure, as Wendell said, I'm a Philly girl. Born and raised here, married here, had 2 chillins here. So I know tough. But ain't nothing like union tough. So I'm pretty sure if I ask you this question, what are you prepared to do? You will answer me, whatever it takes. So union siblings, what are you prepared to do to win? Whatever it takes. What What are you prepared to do to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? What are you prepared to do to elect Bob Casey? What are you prepared to do to make sure that we have union rights and women's rights and LGBTQ plus rights and voting rights and worker rights? What are you prepared to do? That's what I thought. So those of you that live in the Philadelphia area, you know that when Harriet Tubman made her way to freedom, this is where she came. And as she led so many people out of slavery, to continue to encourage them and herself, she would say, keep going, keep going, keep going. So those are the words I want to leave with you today. When you think you can't knock on one more door, I need you to keep going. When you think you can't make one more phone call, I need you to keep going. When you think you can't tell your story one more time, I need you to keep going. Because our children, our babies are depending on us. They're depending on us to be worthy of them. So we must win all the things. All the things. We gotta win all the things. We're gonna win them all. We're gonna win the presidency, and we're gonna win the state, and we're gonna Senate, and we're gonna win the House, because we are union, and we get shit done.
Wonderful. I don't think the microphone was on. I don't think she needed it. I don't think it was on. So, I'm really comfortable around like Mark Perrone, my own international president. We get to spend a lot of time together. We worked on a lot of things for a lot of years. But I'll tell you, introducing all these folks, it is a bit intimidating. And the next one's no less. Someone who probably everybody in this room knows. Again, we see her everywhere, every election. And, someone who, I again, just value her whole life's contribution, and an important one for all union members, but Randi Weingarten, AFT. But I want to also say something. She has some real good friends here in the Philly area that we share in common, and I've heard stories over the years. Another example, somebody grew up in a union household, but and I'm just going to say it this way, as a kid, her mom, who was a teacher, endured a tough, long strike. And so what did she do about it? Well, she didn't just go back to school. Randi went and organized a community to restore some of the cuts those people suffered. And that's where she cut her teeth, and thank God for it, because she's done a great job at the Teachers Union.
Thank you.
Okay, we've been to church and back. I want to, and what I love about, and I said this to my colleagues before we came out here, is every one of the union leaders you've heard from and will hear from, just like all of you, we have a huge passion for helping people. None of us would be in this hall, and thank you, Wendell, for hosting us. None of us would be in this hall today if we didn't have that passion. And we're also, truth be told, a little scared. And I'll tell you a little bit about why I'm scared, which is that I've been on this bus for about 60 some odd days, been all across America. This is, I think, my 156th stop. But I say that by saying this, because my wife says this. My wife's a congregational rabbi, or was. She just retired from the congregation. She's there with my dog. Our dog. That would have been a divorce. And she often says, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And she reminded me about that this morning when I said, oh, yeah, we've been on this bus. She said, Randy, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And what I've seen, I know you expect me to yell and whatever, what I've seen in the last 36 hours in Philly and in the collar counties, of which we all know well, is there's a change. There's a difference. Lee said it. You see it. You feel it. Sorry, I'm so short. I just walk around. And with my, on clouds, I'm really short. You see it. You feel it. And that's because of all of you. Because what happens is that this is, and I'm a high school social studies teacher, so for me to say this, it's crazy, right? It's a trust election. It's not, I wish it was a truth election. If it was a truth election, it'd be obvious. One person who's, never seen a union worker that he respects or likes, and the other who walks the picket line all the time. One who is only coddling billionaires. You notice who is supporting his campaign? 60 billionaires, because they want their tax cut. And the other is basically spent every single moment of her campaign since July basically talking about us, talking about lowering prices, talking about taking on the price gougers, talking about helping people have their first home, helping small businesses get a small business, making sure people have student loan debt forgiven. She's talking about us. She's talking about you. She's talking about all of us. And you see that difference. But that difference is because of you. It's because when people knock on a door, when people make a phone call, when it's worker to worker, it develops the trust again. It develops the connection again. It develops the sense of common purpose again. It develops the sense of the promise of America again. It develops the sense of we're all in it together again. And the one thing that has haunted me for the last 4 weeks, is this. We in this room, Bob Casey, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, all of us in this room, we watched and worked when we engaged in civil rights marches, when we were at the Lincoln, when we heard King's speeches, when we saw Obama become president. We in this room, I bet, believe that the arc of the moral universe does bend to justice. We believe that, right? We believe that. So this time, the first time, my grandkids, I got 2 of them, and I bet there's a lot of people in this room who have kids who are older or who have grandkids that are younger than 20. And kids who are young, they have fewer rights than we do, my friend. They have fewer rights than we do. They have fewer rights than we do. They have fewer rights to vote. They have fewer rights in terms of their privacy. And if these jokers are successful, they will have fewer rights to public education and fewer rights to unions. So this changes the country in a way that is undescribable to any of us. And I'm sorry to yell it, but in the next 2 days, in these last moments, when we know this is a trust election, not a truth election, and we know what you do when you walk really matters, and when you knock really matters, the promise of America, the freedom of America, the opportunity of America, it is really in labor's hands. It's really in our hands. So this is my question to you, both for Bob Casey, for Kamala, for Tim. Will you knock on doors? Yes. Will you make phone calls? Yes. Will you talk to 5 friends or relatives that you don't like inviting to Thanksgiving? Yes. Wait, where was that yes? Yes? So, my friends, when we knock, we win. When we talk, we win. When we phone bank, we win. When we vote, we win. And on November 5th, if we do all of that for the next whatever the number of hours are, we will elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and re-elect Bob Casey.
So, next, I want to introduce someone who, I had a really great experience working with for a number of years when he was here in Pennsylvania as the head of healthcare PA for SCIU. And we served together on the Pennsylvania Employee Benefit Trust, which many of you get your benefits from. Now executive director of the National, executive vice president, National Union, and Neil Bisnow.
Thank you, Wendell. Let's make some noise, Pennsylvania! You ready to win? So I am still a proud Pennsylvanian. My vote is in. You can mark me off. I bring greetings from SEIU President April Verrett, who was here yesterday, is in Detroit today. And I don't know if he's still in the room, I want to call out President Emeritus of SEIU, also a Pennsylvanian in the back of the room, former president of SEIU. So Pennsylvania, we know what we got to do, don't we? We remember 2016, and we remember 2020. Right? In both cases, when they called Pennsylvania, they called the election. Right? So why are all eyes on Pennsylvania? Because Pennsylvania's going to decide, sisters and brothers. Are we ready to decide? Yes. The choice couldn't be any clearer. We have a candidate, a slate of candidates, including our own Bob Casey, who have spent their entire lives, their entire careers, fighting with and for working people. Kamala Harris has walked picket lines with union members. She's walked today with security officers of SEIU. She has worked at McDonald's to pay the bills, not for a frickin' photo op. She has stood up to corporations like big banks to save people's homes, like the pharmaceutical companies to make medicine more affordable for our seniors. She's going to expand Medicare so that our seniors, our parents and our grandparents can age at home with dignity. Let's hear it for that. And the hardworking care workers who care for them get the justice that they finally deserve. And we know the other side. We have seen that movie. This is somebody who has spent his entire life, every single day, caring about himself and himself only. And all of his policies benefit himself and his billionaire buddies. So we remember this movie. We've seen this movie before. We remember the tax cuts for the rich and for the corporations. We remember the Janus decision. Right. We remember the union busting from the Oval Office. And we also remember the Muslim ban. We also remember family separation. We know this playbook. This guy is a union buster and a scab. And he uses the same playbook that every union buster uses, which is divide and conquer. Be divided from each other, will we, sisters and brothers? No. Because we know that a worker is a worker, regardless of where they come from, regardless of how they got here, regardless of the language that they speak. That's right. Let's hear it for that. And we know that we only succeed, Pennsylvania, when as working people we stick together across race and across place and across gender and across language. That's how we organize. That's how we win the contracts that we're so proud of, because we stick together. Right, Pennsylvania? Yes. So the question is, are we ready to stick together in this election? Yes. Are we ready to unite and to choose joy over hate? Yes. Solidarity over division? Yes. Worker power over corporate greed? Yes. Yes, we are, because that's what it's going to take to win. And we know that Pennsylvania is going to decide. So what does that mean? That means that every single conversation we have over the next 3 days, every single one could be the difference. We know that every single piece of literature that we leave on that door when that person's not home could be the difference. Every single text, every single post, every single phone call could be the difference. Because we have seen this movie before, and we are not going to let a more unhinged, more racist, more anti-worker, more authoritarian version of that anywhere back toward that White House. Not happening. Because we know what happens when we fight, Pennsylvania. What happens when we vote, Pennsylvania? When we fight. When we fight. Let me hear you, Pennsylvania, when we vote. When we vote. Ready to win on Tuesday. Let's get it done.
Thank you. So our next guest has a hard stop soon. So I'm going to have to cut my comments down. I already spoke in opening this up about Senator Bob Casey, but a few things I want to add to those comments. You know, I grew up, his dad was governor. When he ran for his first office as Auditor General, we literally drove around in my family's minivan visiting unions, including a lot of the unions here, to try and drum up support for him. Wasn't easy. The times weren't the same as they are now. And you know, same when he then ran for treasurer. But a couple of things about Bob. Let's not forget. He got rid of Rick Sanatorium, right? A lot of people thought it couldn't happen, and it happened because of labor support. He also went on. He's the only Democrat to win 6 statewide elections. He's the only Democrat to win 3 terms as a state senator in our. And I don't remember the numbers, I'm sure he does, but he racked up record-breaking numbers of votes from voters here in Pennsylvania in accomplishing that. He's been a great supporter of organized labor, and he's got a great team, right? We're on the team, but, you know, it's rare to see a whole family get engaged. The Casey brothers, sisters, his family, his wife Teresa's here, and I see at least one, maybe more of the daughters. You all know, everywhere we go, we see Team Casey. We got a whole team. We don't just have one person. Good friend, Bob Casey, to everybody in this room.
Thanks so much. Let's hear it for Wendell. Wow. I am here in a house of labor this morning, and you don't even need me. My God, this is incredible. This is like a religious service here, Wendell. I didn't know you had services here every Sunday. Wow. I'm so grateful you're all here, and I think I'm the last speaker. And I know I'm between you and the work we got to do together, the doors you're knocking on, so I won't hold you too long. But I do want to thank the national labor leaders who are in this room with us today, starting with Liz Schuler. Let's hear it for Liz for coming here. Liz Schuler has been in this state so often, I think she's going to have to start paying taxes here. But I'm so grateful she's leading the men and women of labor all across the country and concentrating on Pennsylvania. Lee Saunders from AFSCME. Let's hear it again for Lee. You just heard from my old friend Neil representing April. Neil, thank you so much for your leadership here in Pennsylvania of SEIU. Becky Pringle, NEA. Randy Weingarten, AFT. Mark Perrone, thank you so much, Mark. This is a UFCW temple here, and I'm grateful to be part of this celebration. But I know that this event here today is just a little bit of a break because you're all working. And I want to thank all of you for the work that you've been doing. So many of you have been out not just for days, not just for weeks, for month and month and month after month. You've been out there helping us get the word out about the difference between Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and their opponents. So I want to ask you one question. Are we going to win on Tuesday for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? And you've done a great job of pointing out the difference between me and my opponent. It's really simple. I've been delivering for Pennsylvania. He was a hedge fund CEO delivering for China in our adversaries. That's about what it is. I may not have told you, and I don't want to dwell on this. I don't want to talk about this, but I just want to make reference to it quickly. When he was running that hedge fund, Mr. McCormick, in addition to investing in our adversaries, he also was involved in working to manage money for entities around the country, including teacher pension funds here in Pennsylvania. And you know what? His firm mismanaged those teacher pension funds to the extent that teachers had to take money out of their take-home pay to pay back money. And you know what? Guess who made money when the teachers had to pay money back? David McCormick and his hedge fund CEO. Right? He made money while teachers had to pay money back. His firm also mismanaged the pension funds of police officers and firefighters. But once again, he made money. So I hope you remind folks at the doors that this is a guy who's invested in our adversaries while I was investing here in our workers, in our families, in our communities. But it gets worse than that, because if we were to elect him, let's boo for that. Thanks. Glad to have that validation there. If we were to elect him or elect that guy running for president, guess what they will do when it comes to the PRO Act, the Protecting the Right to Organize Act? One guy will block it in the Senate, McCormick, and the other guy would veto it if it passed into law. We have to pass the PRO Act. That's a damn good reason to get out and vote on Tuesday. Don't want to hold you, just want to mention two tax provisions. One tax provision was taken away from every union member here and every single union member in the United States of America. The deduction for union dues was taken away in that 2017 Republican tax bill. That was a purposeful, intentional gut punch to unions. We're going to win these races, and we have a tax fight next year. We're going to put that deduction back in the tax code. That's what we're going to do. And I'll tell you, for too long in America, companies have not only been busting unions, but they've been getting a tax break for busting unions. That is wrong. If you bust a union, you shouldn't be rewarded for it. We're going to change the tax code to take away that deduction, that break that they get for busting unions. And in addition to everything else we're doing, I want to end with this. We're going to protect those programs that help the most vulnerable among us. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and so many other programs that they want to rip apart, right? Because in the end, what we're all about here, and we fight on behalf of your members and the men and women of organized labor and workers, some workers who don't have a union but benefit from your work, from your collective bargaining, you're working together for your members. We're working on their behalf because we believe in advancing the cause of justice, right? That's what we believe in. The justice of basic rights, whether it's women's rights, workers' rights, voting rights. The justice of a job that has protections. The justice of making sure that people have protections on the job. The justice of health care. The justice of lifting up and protecting the most vulnerable among us. St. Augustine said hundreds and hundreds of years ago, without justice, what are kingdoms but great bands of robbers? There are a lot of corporate powerful interests that are coming into this state to trash me, to trash Kamala Harris, and to trash unions, right? Those are the same forces in America who want to rob people of basic justice. We're not going to allow them to do that. We're going to work for the next, I don't know how many hours it is, but we got today, we got tomorrow, and we're all working on Election Day up until 8 o'clock, and at the end of that, we're going to count the votes, and we're going to win and advance the cause of justice. Thanks very much.
Thanks, great seeing you. Good. Thanks for doing this. Thank you. Don't go anywhere. Stay put. So I'm going to finish up with what I opened with. If you go out today and walk like the other thousands of union members all across this state, and you make a change in just a few people to get an undecided to vote the right way, to get someone who hasn't returned a ballot to show up and vote on Tuesday or drop that ballot in a box, we will win in Pennsylvania. This is going to come down to less than one vote per precinct. And to help explain how we're going to get that done, is it April? Amber from AFSCME and Chris from USCW are going to take a few minutes to tell you how we will win this. Thank you.
So, hey, real quick before I hand it over to Amber, Amber's going to give the access code for today, but we have so much food and coffee and drinks. Please take stuff. Don't leave here without stuff, and I'm going to turn it over to Amber Cruz from AFSCME.
See, I just knew I couldn't get away with that. All right. So really quick, for all the folks who are planning to canvass today, who's planning to take a pack, I need you to... Hey, listen up! I love that. If you can take out your phone and get the daily access code first. So that's 119439. Again, that's 119439. Then if you're with Philadelphia, you will have your turf, your lit, the QR code, all that will be done on the bus. See Matt for that if you have questions. Separately, if you are planning to canvass in Montgomery County, we have folks in the back on the left-hand side. They're raising their hand and waving at you. They have turf for you. Go see them, get your turf pack, and if you have any questions, they'll be able to answer it. Again, you do need the daily access code, okay, guys? Thank you so much.